I watch Eliza on stage, bathed in the warm glow of the projector, her voice smooth and confident as she presents my research. A strange sense of deja vu washes over me, so potent it nearly knocks the air from my lungs. It's not just similar, it's identical. The slide transitions, the carefully chosen words, even the slight, almost imperceptible tremor in her left hand as she grips the laser pointer. I've seen it all before. This is the moment. This is the betrayal, the one that cost me everything in my previous life. A flash, sharp and unwelcome, pierces through my composure. I see the award ceremony again. Eliza, radiant in a borrowed dress, accepting the accolades that should have been mine. The champagne, cold and bubbly, tasting like ash in my mouth as I forced a smile. And then the darkness. The screech of tires, the shattering glass, a searing pain, and then nothing. An accident, they called it. Convenient, wasn't it? But this time, it's different. I am different. Reborn, they say. More like spat back out, armed with the crushing weight of every memory, every slight, every stolen moment. My internal monologue is a calm, calculating counterpoint to the storm of emotions that threatens to break free. I know what they did. I know what they will do. Eliza finishes her presentation to a chorus of applause. She beams, that dazzling smile that always hit a core of pure, unadulterated ambition. I let my own lips curve into what I hope is a congratulatory smile, pushing myself to my feet, joining the standing ovation. As I move towards her, navigating the throng of admirers, my fingers subtly activate the small recording device nestled in my palm. Eliza, that was breathtaking, I say, my voice even, friendly. She turns, her eyes usually so quick to assess and dismiss, widen slightly in surprise before settling into that familiar, condescending warmth. Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you could make it. History was repeating itself, but this time I had rewritten the script. Eliza didn't know it yet, but her triumph would be as fleeting as morning dew under a merciless sun. The faces in my past life, the architects of my downfall, are now the unwilling cast in my meticulously planned retribution. They don't know the roles they're about to play, or rather replay. They just see me, the quiet, unassuming researcher, back from well, they don't know where I've been, do they? They just see someone they can use, someone they can step on. Let them. Their overconfidence will be their undoing. I remember the first day I met Eliza. It was the orientation for our graduate program, a cavernous lecture hall filled with nervous energy and the smell of old textbooks. She'd breezed in late, a whirlwind of apologies and bright, apologetic smiles, her auburn hair catching the light. She sat next to me, offered a stick of gum, and within minutes, we were laughing like old friends. An instant connection, or so I'd thought. She had a magnetic personality, a social grace that I, buried in my books and equations, had always envied. People were drawn to her, effortlessly. She made connections, charmed professors, and always knew the right thing to say. We became inseparable, or so it seemed. The dream team, Dr. Wells used to call us. My mind was the engine, churning out the theories, the complex algorithms, the endless hours of meticulous data analysis. Eliza was the Polish. She could take my dense, jargon-filled explanations and spin them into elegant, persuasive presentations. She had the charisma I lacked, the ability to make even the most esoteric concepts sound revolutionary. For a while, it worked. We complemented each other. I'd spend nights hunched over my computer, fueled by lukewarm coffee and the thrill of discovery, and then I'd pass my findings to Eliza, who would weave them into a compelling narrative. The shift was subtle, almost imperceptible at first. It began when our research, the work on neural regeneration that had consumed my life for years, started showing real promise. Suddenly, there were whispers in the department, glances from senior faculty, a buzz of excitement. And Eliza, who had initially been just as excited for me, started to change. I see it now, looking back with these cursed, all-knowing eyes. The flicker of something dark in her gaze when I presented a breakthrough to Dr. Wells. The way her smile didn't quite reach her eyes when I celebrated a successful experiment. The possessiveness that crept into her voice when she talked about our project. Signs of jealousy so clear now, but I was too naive, too trusting, too focused on the science to see them then. I remember the night. It's seared into my memory, both from this life and the last. I'd been working late, exhausted but exhilarated after finally cracking a particularly stubborn piece of the puzzle. I'd left my research notes, my precious hand-filled notebooks, and the USB drive with all my raw data on my desk in our shared office. I'd never locked my drawer. Why would I? Eliza was my partner, my friend. The next morning, I found one of my notebooks slightly askew. The USB drive not quite in the same position. I'd brushed it off, told myself I was overtired. But now I know. That was the night she first crossed the line. The night she first dipped her perfectly manicured fingers into the fruits of my labor and began to call them her own. She didn't just glance. She copied. She absorbed. She planned. And I, blinded by a friendship I thought was real, suspected nothing. This time, the office door has a new lock, and my notes are encrypted with a password even I have to look up. Small changes, big consequences. Dr. Wells, the man I'd once revered. He had this way of looking at you, a piercing gaze that made you feel like you were the only person in the room, that your ideas were the most important he'd ever heard. When he'd accepted me into his prestigious lab, I'd felt like I'd finally found someone who truly believed in my potential. He'd praised my early work, encouraged my unconventional approaches, and given me the freedom to explore. That trust, that belief, was what made his eventual betrayal cut so deep. The change in him was insidious, like a slow-acting poison. It started around the time Eliza began her campaign of charm. Suddenly, she was the one bringing him his morning coffee just the way he liked it. She was the one staying late, not in the lab, but in his office, discussing strategy and presentation techniques. He, a man whose professional reputation was built on his uncanny ability to discover and nurture brilliant young minds, was, I realize now, desperate. Department politics were brutal. Funding was tight. He needed another success story, another star pupil to add to his constellation, and Eliza, with her polished demeanor and influential family connections, fit the bill perfectly. I remember trying to voice my concerns, tentatively at first, small things. Dr. Wells, I noticed some of my simulation parameters were changed on the shared drive. Did you authorize Eliza to adjust those? He'd wave a dismissive hand. Collaboration, my dear, it's all about collaboration. Then, later, when Eliza started presenting my core theories as her own insights in internal meetings, I was more direct. Dr. Wells, that foundational concept Eliza just presented, I showed you my notes on that 3 months ago. He'd frowned, a flicker of annoyance in his eyes. Now, let's not get possessive. Ideas evolve. Good science is a team effort. He dismissed my concerns about research security, the vulnerability of our shared server, with a patronizing pat on the shoulder. You worry too much. Focus on the work. Our last conversation in my previous life replays in my mind with chilling clarity. It was just before the big conference, the one where Eliza cemented her claim. I'd gone to him, my heart pounding, a folder of my original time-stamped notes clutched in my sweaty hands. Dr. Wells, I'd pleaded. Eliza is planning to present the entire project as her own. This is my work, my core discovery. He'd looked at me, not with the warmth I remembered, but with a cool, appraising stare. His office felt cold, sterile. My dear, he'd said, his voice smooth as silk, Eliza has a particular talent for communication, for making complex ideas accessible. In this field, that's just as important as the research itself. And perhaps it would be best for the project, for the department, if you were to share credit generously. Think of it as an investment in your future. He didn't even look at my evidence. He'd already made his choice. He'd chosen the presenter over the originator. He'd chosen expediency over integrity. This time, when he inevitably suggests I share credit, I'll have my own recordings, my own carefully prepared arguments. He thinks he's a kingmaker. I'll show him what it feels like to be unseated. James. Just thinking his name sends a pang through me, a ghost of an ache I thought I'd buried. We had this thing, a slow-burning attraction that smoldered during those endless late nights in the lab, fueled by shared frustrations over failed experiments and quiet celebrations over small victories. He was brilliant, his mind sharp and intuitive. He understood my research, really understood it, sometimes better than I did myself. He'd see patterns I'd missed, suggest connections I hadn't considered. There were moments, stolen glances over beakers, hands brushing as we reached for the same manual. Conversations that drifted from quantum mechanics to our favorite obscure bands, where I thought, I hoped. Our almost relationship. It never quite manifested, always hovering just out of reach. A promise whispered in the quiet hum of the centrifuges. I was cautious, focused on my work. He seemed hesitant. Maybe he was waiting for a sign from me. Maybe I was waiting for one from him. Looking back, the maybe is what stings the most. Then, Eliza won her first minor presentation award for my preliminary findings, of course, and things shifted. Suddenly, James was spending more time with her, laughing at her jokes a little too loudly, offering to help her with her data analysis, data that was originally mine. I told myself it was nothing. Eliza was charming, naturally, and James was just being friendly, supportive. But a small, cold knot would tighten in my stomach whenever I saw them together, heads bent close over a monitor, her hand resting casually on his arm. The real betrayal, the one that still makes my breath catch, was more insidious than just a stolen glance or a shared laugh. It was access. Our research servers were supposed to be secure, firewalled, accessible only with individual high-level clearance. After I started suspecting Eliza was taking my work, I changed my passwords, encrypted my critical files. But somehow, she still got in. For the longest time, I couldn't figure out how. Until I saw that text message. It was on his phone, left carelessly on his desk while he stepped out for coffee. I wasn't snooping, not really. A notification had popped up, Eliza's name. My heart had hammered against my ribs. I'd glanced. Just one line. Got the server access, owe you one. Drinks tonight? Tick. I never confronted him about it in my previous life. What was the point? The damage was done. He'd chosen her. He'd chosen whatever it was she offered him over integrity, over me. He'd handed her the keys to my kingdom. Was it ambition? Did he think aligning with Eliza, the rising star, was a smarter career move? Was he blinded by her charm? Or was it something simpler, something baser? I don't know. I don't care anymore. This time, I've already seen him talking to Eliza, his gaze lingering a little too long. The pattern is repeating, but this time, the server logs are being copied to a very secure off-site location every hour. And James. James will learn that some debts are impossible to repay. Family. The word should evoke warmth, support, unconditional love. For me, with Clara, it's always been complicated. She's my older sister, the pretty one, the social one, the one who always seemed to glide through life effortlessly while I stumbled, lost in my own head. Our distance wasn't born of malice, not initially anyway. It was a byproduct of my academic focus. While she was at parties, I was in the library. While she was dating, I was dissecting frog brains. We just inhabited different worlds, but beneath the surface, there was always a current of resentment, flowing mainly from her side. She was overshadowed, she felt. My brilliance, as she sarcastically called it, was a constant, unwelcome spotlight that left her in the shadows. She never understood my passion, my drive. To her, my work was just an obsession, an excuse to avoid real life. So when Eliza waltzed into our lives, all charm and easy laughter, Clara was an easy target. Eliza, ever the opportunist, cultivated that friendship. Despite knowing the tensions between Eliza and me, knowing how much my research meant to me, Clara welcomed Eliza with open arms. They'd go shopping together, have long lunches, share secrets. She's not so bad, Clara would tell me, a defensive edge to her voice when I tried to express my unease about Eliza's growing interest in my project. You're just being paranoid. You always think everyone's out to get you. It's just competitive jealousy. Her words, sharp little barbs, always found their mark. The birthday dinner, my 30th, a rare family gathering. I'd gone to the restroom, and as I was walking back, I overheard them. Clara and Eliza, their voices low, conspiratorial by the coat check. Eliza was complaining about how demanding my research was, how difficult I was being about sharing. And Clara, my own sister, had laughed, a brittle sound, and said, "Oh, don't worry about her. She always thinks everything is hers. She's been like that since we were kids." It was a casual dismissal, a confirmation of Eliza's narrative about me, and it felt like a punch to the gut. It wasn't just emotional betrayal. Clara, through her marriage into a well-connected family, had access to certain academic circles, influential people on grant committees, journal editorial boards. Circles one, with my head down in the lab, had never bothered to cultivate. And she'd happily, almost eagerly, introduced Eliza to them, paving the way, opening doors, giving Eliza a platform and a legitimacy she hadn't earned. I wonder if Clara even realized the extent of her complicity, or if she was so blinded by her own resentments that she simply didn't care. This time, I won't try to explain. I won't try to make her understand. I'll just let the evidence speak for itself. And when the time comes, Clara will have to choose whose side she's really on. The truth has a way of burning bridges, and sometimes that's the only way to see who's willing to swim across. The game begins, or rather, it resumes. Eliza thinks she's playing chess, but she doesn't realize I've already seen the board, every move, every sacrifice, right down to the checkmate. She, Dr. Wells, James, even Clara, they're all moving their pieces, confident, oblivious. And I, the seemingly passive pawn, am quietly, methodically, setting the stage for their collective downfall. This isn't about a single act of revenge. It's about a slow, deliberate unraveling, a meticulous dismantling of their stolen triumphs. Each time they think they've won, each time they reach for another piece of what is mine, they will find my hand already there, guiding them closer to the edge. The air in the department is thick with Eliza's success. It's a suffocating perfume of smug satisfaction and unearned accolades. They think I'm defeated, a footnote in her glorious narrative. Little do they know the ink is still wet on this chapter, and I'm the one holding the pen. The first blow, or rather, the first replay of a past blow, lands with sickening familiarity. Eliza gives an interview to a prominent science journal's online portal. The headline screams, "The Future of Neuroregeneration. Dr. Eliza Vance unveils her groundbreaking theory." Her theory. I read the article, my stomach churning. She speaks with such conviction, such passion about the foundational principles I bled for. She uses my analogies, my carefully crafted explanations. Without a flicker of attribution, my name isn't mentioned. Not once. Then comes the department newsletter, a glossy, full-color spread. There's Eliza, smiling serenely from the front page, a lengthy feature detailing her journey of discovery. My photo, a small, grainy headshot from my student ID, is buried on page 6 under Lab Team Updates, listed as assisting Dr. Vance with data processing. Assisting, I almost laugh. Dr. Wells, of course, adds his voice to the chorus. At the weekly department meeting, he stands before the assembled faculty and students, his chest puffed with pride. "I want to take a moment," he intones, his voice resonating with false gravitas, "to commend Dr. Eliza Vance for her truly original thinking on the Kestrel project. Her ability to synthesize complex data and arrive at such an innovative hypothesis is, frankly, astounding. A true rising star." He beams at Eliza, who offers a modest practice dip of her head. My colleagues applaud, some of them cast sympathetic, pitying glances my way. I keep my expression neutral. The final, predictable insult, I log into the shared server, the one that supposedly houses our collective research. My original notes, the raw data files from the crucial early experiments, the detailed logs of my initial theoretical framework, all gone. Wiped clean. Only Eliza's neatly organized folders remain, filled with documents that bear her name as the sole author, her revisions and interpretations of my work. It's a digital cleansing, an attempt to erase my very existence from the project's history. They're so predictable, so lazy. My silence, my apparent acquiescence is my most potent weapon. They expect tears, accusations, a messy public confrontation. I give them none of it. Instead, I approach Eliza in the common room, the newsletter tucked under my arm. Eliza, congratulations on the article and the newsletter feature, I say, my voice carefully pitched to convey admiration. It's wonderful to see the research getting so much attention. She preens, accepting my praise as her due. Oh, thank you. It's all been a bit of a whirlwind. When Dr. Wells asks me how I'm feeling about Eliza taking the lead on the Kestrel Project publications, I nod slowly. She has a real talent for communicating the findings, Dr. Wells. I'm happy to support her in any way I can. He looks relieved. He probably expected a fight. Later, when Eliza is flustered about an upcoming internal presentation, a more detailed defense of her theory to a panel of senior professors, I offer to help. I know that data set inside out, I tell her with a helpful smile. I can help you prepare some additional materials, maybe run a few more simulations to strengthen your key points. She hesitates for a moment, suspicion warring with her inherent need for assistance when the actual work gets tough. Greed wins. Oh, would you? That would be incredibly helpful. The draft of the first paper is circulated. My name is listed as second author, a significant demotion from my previous life, where I was at least co-first author before the final version mysteriously changed. When a concerned colleague, Dr. Ramirez, one of the few who seems to remember my early contributions, pulls me aside and asks if I'm okay with it, I shrug lightly. Eliza's done so much to bring it to this stage, I say, my voice a masterpiece of false modesty. She deserves the spotlight. I'm just grateful to be included. Dr. Ramirez looks unconvinced but doesn't press. My passivity is disarming. It's confusing. It's exactly what I want. While they bask in their stolen glory, I am busy in the shadows. Every new research document I create, every piece of analysis, every simulation is now embedded with digital watermarks. Tiny, invisible markers that are uniquely mine, traceable, undeniable. My automated backup system, running on a secure remote server they don't even know exists, timestamps every single file, every modification, every email correspondence related to my work, a meticulous, unalterable record of my true contribution. Then comes the masterstroke, a piece of beautiful, subtle sabotage. Eliza is preparing for the department symposium, a high-stakes presentation. She's using our shared calculation models I built, of course. I know their intricacies, their potential failure points. Late one night, when the lab is deserted, I access the specific algorithm she'll be using for a crucial projection. I introduce a flaw, not a glaring one, not something that would immediately crash the system. Just a tiny, almost imperceptible error in a complex string of code. An error that will cause a slight but significant deviation in the final output. A deviation that only someone intimately familiar with the original correct calculations would immediately recognize. It's a ticking time bomb, hidden in plain sight. Simultaneously, I begin a careful, discreet correspondence with a competing research team at another university. Dr. Eris Thorne, a brilliant but somewhat overlooked scientist whose work has always paralleled mine. I share some of my non-critical earlier fully validated findings under the guise of seeking collaborative feedback. I establish a timeline, an independent verification of my concepts, completely separate from Eliza and Dr. Wells. I'm building an external record, a chorus of voices that will, when the time is right, corroborate my claims. The day of the department symposium arrives. The lecture hall is packed. Eliza, dressed in a sharp power suit, strides onto the stage, confidence radiating from her. Her presentation is slick, polished. She reaches the slide with the crucial projection, the one based on the subtly flawed calculation. The graph appears on the large screen. It looks plausible. Until Professor Davies, a notoriously sharp-eyed senior academic with a penchant for catching errors, raises his hand during the quanda. Dr. Vance, he begins, his voice carrying clearly through the hushed hall. Your projection on slide 37. It seems to deviate rather significantly from the established theoretical model, particularly regarding the cellular degradation rates. Can you explain that discrepancy? A ripple of unease goes through the audience. Eliza pales. She glances at the slide, then at her notes. A flicker of panic in her eyes. She fumbles for an answer. Well, Professor Davies, our model incorporates some novel variables. Her voice trails off. She has no idea what the discrepancy is or why it's there. Dr. Wells shifts uncomfortably in his seat. This is not going according to plan. The quanta continues, and Eliza is visibly floundering, unable to defend the flawed projection. It's an embarrassing public unraveling. Later that night, the lab is a scene of frantic activity. Eliza, her usual composure shattered, is pacing, close to tears. Dr. Wells is alternately trying to soothe her and grilling her about the calculations. She finally corners me, desperation in her voice. "You have to help me. I don't understand what went wrong. The numbers, they just don't make sense." I feign surprise, then concern. "Let me take a look," I say calmly. I sit at the terminal, examine the code, and after a few minutes of exaggerated frowning and muttering, I discover the subtle flaw. "Ah, here it is," I announce. "A slight miscalibration in the iteration sequence. Easy to miss." With a few keystrokes, I correct it. The simulation reruns. The projection snaps back to the correct, theoretically sound values. Eliza stares at the screen, then at me, a mixture of relief and suspicion in her eyes. Dr. Wells, however, is purely relieved. "Excellent work," he exclaims, clapping me on the shoulder a little too hard. "Quick thinking, you saved the day." He's not happy with me, not really, but he's glad the immediate crisis is averted. The next day, at a follow-up meeting, Eliza is forced to publicly acknowledge the error and, more importantly, my role in catching and correcting it. "I'd like to thank my colleague," she says, her voice tight with resentment, "for her sharp eyes in identifying a minor computational anomaly in my presentation." "Minor." "Right," Dr. Wells nods approvingly. I offer a small, humble smile. The first crack in their facade has appeared, and I was the one who placed the chisel. The sting of the symposium incident fades, at least for Eliza and Dr. Wells. They are quick to dismiss it as a minor hiccup, a learning experience. Their ambition, like a stubborn weed, pushes through the cracks, seeking new sunlight. They believe they've contained the damage. They believe I'm still their compliant, easily managed subordinate. They are, as always, mistaken. The cycle continues, and with each rotation, the stakes get higher, and their footing becomes more precarious. Eliza, under Dr. Wells's eager guidance, is rushing to publish. The prestigious Journal of Neural Sciences is their target. She submits the paper, the one based entirely on my foundational work, without my final review. When I finally see the submission draft, almost by accident, left on a shared printer, I'm horrified, though not surprised. The methodology section has been subtly altered, twisted to diminish my role, to make my key experimental breakthroughs seem like minor procedural steps that she refined. My original contributions are downplayed, almost erased, while her interpretive insights are lauded. Around the same time, James starts to drift further into Eliza's orbit. During a lab meeting while presenting some of his own tangentially related research, he casually references Eliza's theory on synaptic plasticity. Not our theory, not even the Kestrel Project theory. Eliza's theory. He says it so naturally, so easily. It's a small thing, a verbal tick perhaps, but it's a clear indication of where his loyalties now lie, or at least where he perceives the power to be. He's backing the horse he thinks will win. Then comes the family dinner. Clara, my sister, is bubbling with news. "Guess what?" she announces, her eyes shining. "Eliza has been invited to that exclusive neuroconference in Kyoto, the one with all the Nobel laureates. Apparently, her latest paper made a huge impression on the organizing committee." She beams at me as if expecting me to share her excitement. An exclusive conference, an invitation I, in my previous life, had dreamed of, an invitation that had been extended to Eliza based on my stolen work. The pattern is sickeningly precise. The paper is accepted by the Journal of Neural Sciences. Eliza is ecstatic. Dr. Wells is already planning the press release. I send Eliza a small bouquet of flowers with a card. Congratulations on the acceptance, a huge achievement. She displays them prominently on her desk. She asks for my help again, this time with the presentation slides for the Kyoto conference. "You're so good with the data visualization," she says, a hint of condescension in her voice, as if she's throwing me a bone. I agree readily. "Of course, Eliza, I'd be happy to help you make sure the slides are perfect." I spend hours polishing her presentation, making her stolen data look even more impressive. James corners me by the coffee machine one morning. Heard about Kyoto, he says, his tone carefully neutral. Eliza's really going places, huh? I stir my coffee, my expression serene. Yes, it's wonderful, I reply. I'm just happy the research is getting the recognition it deserves. He looks at me, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. Guilt? Pity? Or just curiosity at my apparent lack of ambition? He says nothing more. Clara, true to form, tries to stir the pot. Aren't you even a little bit upset? She asks during a strained phone call. About Kyoto. She should have at least tried to get you included as a co-presenter. It's your work too, no matter how much you let her walk all over you. I sigh softly. Clara, it's fine. Eliza is better at these things. Besides, I'm focusing on some new avenues of research here. It's probably for the best. I can almost hear her shaking her head in exasperation. My passivity continues to be their blind spot. My plans are already in motion. Under the guise of exploring a different minor research project, I arrange a meeting with Dr. Lena Hansen, the notoriously meticulous editor-in-chief of the Journal of Neural Sciences. I don't mention Eliza or the Kestrel project directly. We discuss my new, actually very old, very foundational ideas, and I casually leave behind a folder of supplementary materials, which happens to include some of my original time-stamped research notes, notes that directly contradict the narrative Eliza presented in her submitted paper. Then, an anonymous package arrives at the office of Professor Kenji Tanaka, the head of the Kyoto Conference Organizing Committee. The package contains a neatly compiled dossier, copies of my original server logs, time-stamped file versions, and a detailed side-by-side comparison of my early drafts versus Eliza's submitted abstract for the conference, highlighting the inconsistencies in methodology and the unattributed appropriation of core concepts. No return address, no accusatory letter, just the cold, hard facts. To further cement my ownership, I quietly file a provisional patent application for a secondary research application, a novel diagnostic tool that is entirely dependent on the core concepts of the Kestrel project, an application that could only have been developed by someone with an intimate, foundational understanding of the original research. It's another piece of irrefutable time-stamped evidence. The first tremor hits when the Kyoto conference organizers contact Eliza. They have a few clarifying questions about her submitted abstract, specifically regarding certain methodologies and the timeline of her initial discoveries. They request additional raw data, verification from her institution. Eliza, caught off guard, scrambles to respond, her confidence visibly shaken. Then, Dr. Hansen from the Journal of Neural Sciences sends an email. Not just to Eliza, but to Dr. Wells, and, significantly, to me. She notes certain discrepancies in the authorship attribution and data presentation in the recently accepted paper. She requests a meeting with all involved parties to discuss these serious concerns before the paper moves to final publication. The word serious hangs in the air like a guillotine. Dr. Wells is summoned to the department chair's office. The chair, a stern, no-nonsense woman named Dr. Albright, has received an inquiry from the university's ethics board. An anonymous tip, it seems, has raised questions about the supervision and ethical conduct surrounding the Kestrel project. Dr. Wells emerges from the meeting looking pale and shaken. The phone call from Eliza comes late one evening. Her voice is tight with panic, tears threatening to spill. I don't know what's happening, she stammers. The conference, the journal. They're asking all these questions. It's like someone is trying to sabotage me. She pauses then, her voice dropping to a near whisper. Did you say something to them? I let a moment of silence hang in the air before replying, my voice calm, almost soothing. Eliza, that's a terrible accusation. Why would I do that? Of course not. But it sounds like there have been some unfortunate misunderstandings. Don't worry, I'll help you clear things up. My hand hovers over the record button on my phone. We can talk it through. Just tell me everything. The game is escalating and she's walking right into my carefully laid trap. The walls are closing in, but they don't see it yet. Or perhaps they refuse to. Eliza, Dr. Wells, and now, more visibly, James are huddled together, a desperate little cabal trying to plug the leaks in their sinking ship. They see external attacks, misunderstandings, unfortunate coincidences. They don't see the architect of their troubles sitting quietly in the same lab, offering sympathetic smiles and helpful suggestions. Their panic is making them sloppy. Their fear is making them predictable. I accidentally overhear a hushed, urgent conversation outside Dr. Wells's office. Eliza's voice, sharp with anxiety, "We need to present a united front. They can't prove anything if we all stick to the same story." James's lower tones, trying to be reassuring. "Don't worry, I've reviewed the server logs Dr. Wells asked me to check. There's nothing directly implicating anyone if we frame it correctly." "Dr. Wells," his voice strained, "the key is damage control. We need to discredit these anonymous accusations. Make them seem like the work of a disgruntled competitor. Their paranoia is, ironically, leading them to fabricate more evidence against themselves. The official nominations for the university's annual Research Excellence Award are announced. Last year in my previous life, Eliza won this award, the stepping stone to her national recognition. This year, my name, which had been on the preliminary shortlist circulated internally, a small concession Dr. Wells had made, probably to appease Dr. Albright, has vanished from the final list. Eliza is the sole nominee from our department for her work on the Kestrel project. It's a blatant, public snub, a clear message that they are closing ranks." Clara calls, her voice laced with a strange mixture of concern and accusation. "I heard about the award nomination, or lack thereof in your case. Look, I know you're angry, but you need to be careful. Don't make waves. Eliza has connections. Dr. Wells is well respected. If you try to fight this, you could damage the whole department's reputation. Your own, too. Her warning is clear. Stay silent or face the consequences. She's choosing her alliances. The final, audacious act, Eliza, emboldened by the award nomination and desperate to control the narrative, agrees to a television interview with a local news channel doing a segment on innovators in science. She sits there under the bright studio lights, looking earnest and brilliant, and describes the Kestrel project as my life's work. She speaks of the lonely hours of discovery, the intuitive leaps that led to the breakthrough. She doesn't just steal my research, she steals my journey, my struggle, my very passion. I craft a carefully worded email to the department, congratulating Eliza on her award nomination. Her dedication to the Kestrel project has been truly inspiring, I write, a well-deserved honor. I hit send, imagining their relief, their renewed conviction that I am no threat. When the television interview airs and colleagues offer awkward condolences or ask pointed questions about my role, I wave it off. Eliza is a natural communicator, I say with a smile. She represents the project so well, we're all incredibly proud of her. I even share the interview link on my professional networking page with a supportive comment. An international conference in Berlin is approaching. Dr. Wells, trying to maintain some semblance of fairness, or perhaps to keep me under his thumb, offers me a minor speaking slot, a poster presentation in a crowded hall, far from the main stage where Eliza will be giving a keynote address based on her award-winning research. I accept with apparent gratitude. Thank you, Dr. Wells. That's very generous. I appreciate the opportunity. I have lunch with Clara. She's tense, clearly uncomfortable. I hope you're not planning anything foolish, she says, picking at her salad. This whole situation, it's delicate. I meet her gaze, my expression open, almost serene. Clara, I've moved on. I'm focusing on new research interests. The Kestrel project is Eliza's now. I wish her all the best. She seems to relax, convinced I've finally accepted my fate. My passivity is a cloak, and they are all too willing to believe it's real. The time for subtlety is ending. My network of international colleagues, cultivated over months of careful correspondence, is now activated. Dr. Thorne, the researcher from the competing university, publishes a preliminary paper that, while not directly challenging Eliza, clearly establishes an independent line of inquiry into the same foundational concepts, with acknowledgments to my early, pre-Eliza communications with him. Other respected scientists in the field receive anonymous packages containing summaries of my original time-stamped work alongside Eliza's published claims, inviting them to draw their own conclusions. I gather all my evidence: the recordings of Eliza's panicked admissions, the server logs James conveniently reviewed but failed to fully erase, Dr. Wells's dismissive emails, the complete time-stamped history of my research, the patent application, the correspondence with Dr. Thorne. It's a mountain of irrefutable proof. I compile it into a comprehensive report and submit it officially to the university's ethics committee, CCing the dean and the university president. No more anonymous tips. This is a formal complaint under my own name. I then release a series of time-locked emails I had sent to myself, to trusted third-party servers months, even years ago, detailing my research concepts, my experimental designs, my breakthroughs, all time-stamped and digitally signed. An unalterable record of my intellectual property now made public to key figures in the academic community. Finally, I request a meeting with the university president, Dr. Evans. My email is brief, stating only that I have urgent information regarding a serious breach of academic integrity within the institution. I attach a concise summary of my evidence. The meeting is granted almost immediately. I walk into her imposing office not as a victim, but as a scientist armed with undeniable truth. The ethics committee, faced with my comprehensive, formally submitted evidence, announces a formal investigation into research attribution and potential misconduct related to the Kestrel project. The carefully constructed wall of denial around Eliza, Dr. Wells, and James begins to crumble. International colleagues, now armed with concrete proof, start to publicly question Eliza's claims. Blog posts appear, comments on academic forums, discreet inquiries to journal editors. The whispers become a roar. Eliza's keynote address in Berlin is met with a disturbingly high number of pointed, difficult questions about her methodology and the originality of her work. She falters, her confidence visibly cracking under the international scrutiny. President Evans, after our meeting and her own review of my evidence, calls an emergency meeting with the department chair, Dr. Albright, and the dean. The implications are severe: reputational damage to the university, potential retraction of published papers, loss of funding. Dr. Wells is the first to face direct consequences. He is placed on administrative leave pending the outcome of the ethics investigation. His carefully cultivated career, his reputation as a discoverer of brilliant young minds, hangs in the balance. James, finally realizing the true extent of the deception and his unwitting, or perhaps not so unwitting, role in it, confronts me in the lab. His face is a mask of confusion and dawning horror. "Why are you doing this?" he demands, his voice low and urgent. "Why are you suddenly causing all this trouble? Eliza, she never meant to—" I cut him off, my voice cold and steady. "You should choose your next words very carefully, James. And perhaps choose your alliances more wisely in the future." He stares at me, the realization of his own culpability dawning in his eyes. The final, spectacular implosion comes during a follow-up media interview Eliza foolishly agreed to, hoping to salvage her reputation. A young, ambitious reporter, armed with leaked information from the Ethics Committee's investigation, presses her relentlessly on the authorship questions, on the timeline of her discoveries, on my documented prior work. Eliza, under the harsh glare of the studio lights, breaks down. Tears stream down her face as she stammers incoherent denials, her carefully constructed image of the brilliant, innovative scientist shattering into a million pieces for the world to see. The cycle is complete. The queen has been dethroned. Just when I think the storm is about to break, that the final pieces are falling into place, the game takes another unexpected turn. It seems my carefully orchestrated revenge has stirred more than just guilt and panic. It has awakened older, deeper currents, forces I hadn't fully accounted for. The past, it seems, is not done with me yet. The ethics committee is in full swing. Dr. Wells is suspended. Eliza is a pariah. James is desperately trying to cooperate to save his own skin. I should feel a sense of triumph, of closure, but a new unease settles in. I keep all my crucial original files, the truly damning evidence that predates even my digital watermarks. Old notebooks, initial sketches, printouts from the very first successful simulations, on a specific encrypted backup hard drive. I keep it locked in my desk drawer in my office, a physical failsafe. One morning, I arrive at the lab to find the lock on my desk drawer subtly scratched. My heart lurches. I unlock it. The hard drive is gone. My mind races. Who? Why? What were they looking for that wasn't already in the ethics committee submission? Panic, cold and sharp, pricks at me. I quickly access the security camera footage for the corridor outside my office. The university had upgraded the system recently. I fast forward through the night's recording. There. Just after 2 a.m., a shadowy figure moving quickly, silently. The angle is poor, but as the figure turns slightly to pick the lock on my office door, I recognize the build, the way he moves. James. He slips into my office and emerges a few minutes later, something small clutched in his hand. He glances nervously down the corridor before disappearing. My backup hard drive. A cold dread washes over me. James already gave his statement to the ethics committee. He's supposedly cooperating. What exactly was he looking for, and who sent him to find it? A few days later, an anonymous email lands in my inbox. The subject line makes my blood run cold. I know what happened last time. My hands tremble as I click it open. The message is short, cryptic, but chillingly specific. It mentions details about my accident from my previous life, the make and color of the car that hit me, the specific intersection, the time of day, details that were never made public, details only someone intimately involved or someone who had access to the full police report could possibly know. Details even I only remembered with the clarity of my reborn consciousness. My breath catches in my throat. Who is this? How could they know? Is this a threat, a warning, or something else entirely? My carefully constructed world, my second chance, suddenly feels incredibly fragile, exposed. The message ended with a meeting place and time, a small, out-of-the-way cafe near the university. Exactly where I had been heading, on foot, the day I died in my previous life. The anonymous email sends me spiraling. I need more information. I start digging, carefully, discreetly. My sister, Clara, her initial warnings, her strange defensiveness of Eliza, something doesn't add up. We had a tense argument after the news of Dr. Wells' suspension broke. She accused me of being reckless, of destroying careers. In her agitation, she left her phone on my kitchen counter when she stormed out. Normally, I wouldn't. But the email, the missing hard drive, my sense of security is shattered. I pick up her phone. It's unlocked. I navigate to her messages, my heart pounding. I search for Eliza's name. The exchanges go back months, further than I imagined. Further than Eliza's initial overt theft of my research. They aren't just casual chats. They're plans. Vague references to our arrangement, to making sure she doesn't get in the way, to the Wells situation being handled. It's a conspiracy that seems to extend beyond just stealing my work. It feels darker, more personal, more sinister. Then I see it. A series of messages from the past week, after the ethics investigation was announced, after James stole my hard drive. Eliza, is everything in place for the backup plan if this ethics thing goes sideways? Clara, he's on it, don't worry. Eliza, good. No mistakes this time. No mistakes this time? My blood turns to ice. The final message sent yesterday, after the anonymous email about my accident arrived, is terrifyingly simple. Is the accident arranged for Friday or Saturday? Friday morning. My nerves are frayed. The anonymous email, Clara and Eliza's texts. I feel like I'm walking a tightrope over a chasm. My phone rings. It's Dr. Wells. His voice is quiet, strained, almost unrecognizable. He's been suspended, his reputation in tatters, yet he sounds strangely calm. I need to see you, he says, no preamble. It's urgent. I have something that will clear everything up. My office. 1 hour. Clear everything up? How? Is this a trap? Is he in on whatever Clara and Eliza are planning? My instincts scream at me to refuse, to go to the police, to run. But clear everything up. What could he possibly mean? The slim chance that he might actually have something that could explain the escalating danger or even offer a way out is a lure I can't ignore. I arrive at his office, my hand clutching my phone, ready to dial for help. The door is slightly ajar. I push it open cautiously. Dr. Wells is sitting at his desk, his back to me. He's staring intently at his computer monitor. As I step further into the room, I see what's on the screen. Security footage. Grainy, black and white. An intersection. A figure walking. A car speeding out of nowhere. It's the footage of my death, my previous life's death. He didn't look up when I entered, just said quietly, "You're not the only one who's been given a second chance." The world tilts. Dr. Wells, a second chance? What does he mean? Before I can process his cryptic statement, before I can ask the flood of questions threatening to drown me, my phone buzzes. An official notification from the International Neurogenesis Conference, the one in Berlin that Eliza had imploded at. The organizers are announcing a last-minute special closed-door session on research ethics and data integrity in collaborative projects. Attendance is mandatory for all principal investigators whose work has been recently questioned. Both Eliza and I are specifically named. It's scheduled for tomorrow afternoon, Saturday. The same Saturday mentioned in Clara's chilling text message. Is this their accident? A public forum where they plan to discredit me further? Or something more literal, more final, under the cover of an official event? Then a private message pings on my conference app. It's from Professor Ramirez, the senior academic who had initially shown concern for me, now revealed as the newly appointed chair of the ad hoc ethics committee for this special session. "We know everything," the message reads. "Play along just a little longer. Your safety will be ensured." Knows everything? About the research theft? Or more? My safety? A cold comfort when I feel like a target painted on my back. I stare at the message, my mind reeling. Who is we? And how much do they truly know? As I numbly pack my bag with presentation materials, what else am I supposed to do? I notice a small, plain white card slipped under my apartment door. No envelope, no name. Inside, there's a faded color photograph. It's me, younger from my previous life, standing beside a woman with kind eyes and silver hair. I'm smiling, looking happy, relaxed. I have no memory of this photo, no memory of this woman. I'd never met her in this life. Who is she, and how is this possible? The threads of my past and present are tangling into an impossible knot, and I feel myself being pulled into its center. The cafe is small, tucked away on a quiet side street, smelling faintly of stale coffee and old newspapers. The place where I was supposed to die, again. Professor Ramirez's message said to play along, but Dr. Wells's revelation, the photograph, something is shifting, something far bigger than academic fraud. My heart hammers against my ribs as I push open the door. This isn't just about Eliza anymore. He's sitting at a corner table, an elderly man with wispy white hair and remarkably bright, alert eyes behind thick-rimmed glasses. He looks like 1,000 other retired academics, unassuming, perhaps a little frail. This is the sender of the anonymous email, the one who knows about my last time? He gestures to the empty chair opposite him. "You came," he says, his voice surprisingly firm. He doesn't introduce himself, he just waits. "Who are you?" I ask, my voice barely a whisper. "How do you know about before?" He smiles, a gentle, knowing expression. "My name is Alistair Finch. I was the university archivist for nearly 50 years. And you, my dear, look exactly like your grandmother, Dr. Evelyn Hayes." Grandmother? Evelyn Hayes? My mother never spoke of her mother, only that she died young, a tragic accident, a scientist. My mind reels. The photo slipped under my door, the woman with the kind eyes. "My grandmother?" I manage. "Indeed," Alistair says, his gaze unwavering. "A brilliant scientist, one of the brightest minds of her generation. Her work on cellular memory and neural regeneration in the 1960s was revolutionary, groundbreaking." He pauses, his eyes clouding with a distant sorrow. "And it was stolen from her." A cold dread, deeper than anything I've felt before, washes over me. Stolen? By whom? "By a promising young protege and his ambitious wife," Alistair continues, his voice dropping. "A charming couple who insinuated themselves into her lab, into her trust. They took her research, published it as their own, won accolades, built careers upon her genius. And when Evelyn threatened to expose them, he trails off, his gaze distant. She died in a convenient accident, a hit and run. Driver never found. The parallels are sickening, a horrifying generational echo. What what does this have to do with Eliza? I ask, though a terrible suspicion is already forming. Alistair's eyes meet mine, filled with a profound sadness. The family that stole your grandmother's research, that built their scientific dynasty on her stolen legacy, their name was Vance. Eliza is Arthur and Eleanor Vance's granddaughter. Eliza, her grandparents. The realization hits me with the force of a physical blow. This isn't just one desperate woman's ambition. This is a pattern, a legacy of theft passed down through generations. I've been watching the Vance family for decades, Alistair says, his voice barely audible. Ever since Evelyn. Ever since she died. I was just a junior archivist then, but I knew her. I admired her. I suspected something was wrong. So I started collecting things. Letters, lab notes she'd discarded, preliminary drafts. Anything that might prove her work was hers. He gestures vaguely, as if towards a hidden trove of secrets. I have a hidden collection, an archive within the archive, evidence against the Vance family stretching back 60 years. He leans forward, his bright eyes fixing on mine. The accident that killed your grandmother, the details were eerily similar to what happened to you in your previous life. The suppressed investigation, the missing files. History doesn't just rhyme, my dear. Sometimes it's a direct quotation. Alistair takes a sip of water, his composure remarkable given the bombshells he's dropping. After your grandmother's death, he continues, I wasn't the only one who suspected foul play. Evelyn had a few loyal friends, colleagues who knew the truth of her genius and the Vance's treachery. They couldn't prove anything officially, not against the wall of silence and influence the Vances quickly erected, but they did something else. He reaches into an old leather satchel at his feet and pulls out a thick, official-looking envelope, sealed with wax. Evelyn, foresightful as ever, had established a trust. She had a premonition, perhaps, that her work might be stolen, or worse. The instructions were specific. The trust was to remain sealed, managed by a discreet law firm, and only to be opened when history repeats itself. And a Hayes descendant faces a similar pattern of betrayal in the pursuit of their scientific truth. He slides the envelope across the table. My name is written on it, in elegant, old-fashioned script. My hands tremble as I break the seal. Inside, there are stacks of documents. Original research notes, meticulously detailed, in a handwriting that is eerily similar to my own. Diagrams, equations, theories that form the very bedrock of the Kestrel project, my project, but dated decades earlier. Undeniable proof of a multi-generational theft, a systematic appropriation of my family's intellectual legacy. But there's more, financial statements. Patent filings Evelyn had secretly made for peripheral applications of her work. Patents that had, over the decades, accrued substantial royalties, carefully managed and reinvested. The numbers are staggering. I'm staring at a fortune, wealth that dwarfs the university's entire research endowment. And then, the most shocking document of all, share certificates, a significant controlling ownership stake in a large, diversified holding company, a company whose subsidiaries include the very research institute where I work, the institute that employs Dr. Wells, that funds Eliza's stolen glory. My grandmother, it seems, had not just anticipated betrayal. She had laid the groundwork for an eventual reclamation, a reclaiming of not just her legacy, but her power. I am no longer just a wronged scientist. I am a silent, unknowing heiress with the resources to burn their stolen empire to the ground. I look up from the documents, my mind reeling, trying to process the sheer scale of it. The generational theft, the hidden wealth, the institute. Alistair is watching me, a faint, enigmatic smile on his lips. There's more you need to understand, he says, his voice taking on a different quality, a resonance that seems to fill the small cafe. I am not merely an archivist, my dear, or rather, I am an archivist of a peculiar kind. He leans closer, and the background noise of the cafe seems to fade. the light outside the window dims. I am a guardian, he says, his bright eyes seeming to glow faintly. A protector of academic integrity, of true scientific discovery through time, a role I inherited much like you inherited your grandmother's genius. My breath catches. Through time. Evelyn didn't just die, Alistair says, his voice now a low hum that vibrates in my chest. Her consciousness, her brilliant mind, was too strong, too vital to simply extinguish. I found her in those moments after the accident. Not her body, but her essence. And with the help of others who share my responsibilities, we preserved it. Preserved it, I whisper, a wild, impossible thought taking root. The reincarnation process, as you experienced it, is not random. Alistair explains. It is guided. It has happened twice before with other descendants of gifted lines whose work was critical, whose legacies were threatened. We wait for the right vessel, the right confluence of talent and circumstance. You are the third, the one who carries Evelyn's spark most brightly. He reaches out and gently touches my forehead. A flood of images, sensations, memories pour into my mind. Not mine, but Evelyn's. I see her lab, her breakthroughs, her joy, her betrayal. I feel her anger, her determination, her unbroken spirit. It's overwhelming, yet strangely clarifying. I am not just me. I am a continuation. I can give you access to more, Alistair says, her complete memories, her deepest insights into the research. She saw further than you can imagine. He pauses, his expression becoming grave. Stopping this cycle of theft, reclaiming your grandmother's work, it's about far more than justice for one family or even for academic integrity. Evelyn's research, your research, when completed correctly, when guided by its true originator's intent, leads to a breakthrough of monumental significance. A discovery that could fundamentally alter the course of human understanding, of human potential. It is this discovery that the Vances, and others like them, have been trying to control, to suppress, to exploit for generations. They don't want it to heal, they want it to control. My research, it was never just about neural regeneration. It was a key, and my grandmother knew it. Eliza, in her greed, stumbled upon a fragment of it, but she has no idea of its true power, its true purpose. The weight of Alistair's revelations, of Evelyn's memories, settles upon me. It's not a burden, but a mantle. A sense of purpose, vast and profound, crystallizes within me. My grandmother, I begin. The word feeling more real, more connected now. Her identity. It was hidden deliberately, wasn't it? Even from her own family. Alistair nods. Evelyn came from a lineage that connects to the very founders of some of this country's major scientific institutions. Families who believed in science for the betterment of humanity, not for personal gain or power. Her true heritage was obscured to protect her, to allow her to work freely. The trust she established, the wealth it accrued, it's more than just money. It includes a controlling interest in the university's Board of Regents. I stare at him, dumbfounded. The Board of Regents, the highest governing body of the university. You are not just an heiress to a scientific legacy, my dear, Alistair says, his eyes twinkling. You are the rightful heir to a tradition of stewardship, of ethical leadership in the scientific world, a legacy that has shaped this field, often from the shadows. He explains that there is a network, small but influential, of scientists, academics, even philanthropists, who were loyal to Evelyn's vision, who have been watching, waiting for the right moment, the right descendant. They knew about the Vances, they knew about me. They were the we Professor Ramirez referred to. They have been subtly guiding events, protecting me more than I knew. And, Alistair adds, as if delivering a final astonishing gift, your grandmother's true laboratory still exists. Hidden, shielded, containing research, equipment, discoveries far beyond anything currently conceived in your academic circle. It is waiting for you. The scale of it is almost too much to comprehend. I am not who I thought I was. My life, my death, my rebirth, it was all part of something larger, a battle fought across generations for the soul of science itself. A new clarity, a cold, sharp anger, mixed with a profound sense of destiny, fills me. The time for passive observation, for subtle countermoves, is over. It's time to wield the power my grandmother left me. With Alistair's guidance, I begin to move. The network of scientists loyal to Evelyn's vision is activated. Quiet phone calls are made. Secure messages are exchanged. Resources are mobilized. I contact the law firm managing Evelyn's trust. The lawyers expecting this moment are ready. My financial resources, now fully accessible, are deployed with precision. I fund an independent, high-profile team of international experts to publicly and irrefutably verify my and Evelyn's original research, comparing it side by side with Eliza's fraudulent claims. The process will be transparent, rigorous, and devastatingly public. Using my grandmother's controlling interest in the university, I instruct the lawyers to call an emergency meeting of the Board of Regents. The agenda: a full review of research ethics, intellectual property policies, and the conduct of senior faculty and administration. New impenetrable security protocols are implemented across the university's research databases, designed by Evelyn's network. Eliza, James, and any remaining supporters find themselves locked out, their access revoked, their ability to further tamper with or destroy evidence gone. The digital doors have slammed shut. Carefully selected tranches of evidence, the most damning, the most undeniable, are released to key academic partners, to funding agencies, to influential scientific journals globally. Not anonymously this time, but under my full name, Dr. Evelyn Hayes's granddaughter, along with a statement about the forthcoming independent verification. Dr. Wells, still on administrative leave, receives a visit from a university lawyer. He is quietly informed that his endowed chair, his very position within the university, was established decades ago by a philanthropic gift from the Hayes Family Trust. My grandmother was, in effect, his patron. The irony is savage. His betrayal was not just of a student, but of the very foundation that supported his career. His collapse is quiet, absolute. He resigns before the Board of Regents meeting even takes place. The balance of power has not just shifted, it has been overturned. They thought they were players in a small departmental game. They are about to discover they were merely pawns in a war they didn't even know existed. And the Queen, long thought dead, has returned to the board. The air in the university's main auditorium is thick with anticipation and a palpable tension. This isn't just another ethics hearing, it's a reckoning. The culmination of my reborn life's singular focus, and, as I now understand, the culmination of a much older, deeper fight. The university, under pressure from the Board of Regents, now subtly influenced by my grandmother's interests, and the glare of international academic scrutiny, has convened a formal hearing on the research ethics violations surrounding the Kestrel project. This isn't some stuffy, closed-door committee meeting. Representatives from major scientific bodies, journal editors, and even a few select respected science journalists are present as official witnesses. The university is trying to salvage its reputation, to demonstrate transparency, however belatedly. I arrive flanked by Alistair, his quiet presence a source of immense strength, and two distinguished elderly scientists, key members of my grandmother's loyal network, their reputations impeccable, their knowledge of the Vance's historical transgressions profound. We are not here as accusers begging for justice. We are here as arbiters of a truth long suppressed. Eliza, Dr. Wells, his resignation not yet public knowledge, a final humiliation orchestrated by the board. James, and, to my surprise and a fresh stab of pain, my sister Clara, arrive together. They present a unified front, their expressions a mixture of defiance, feigned indignation, and carefully concealed fear. They've clearly rehearsed their narrative, their denials, their counter-accusations of a smear campaign by a disgruntled former colleague. The shock on their faces when they see the assembled panel, the international witnesses, the gravitas of the proceedings, is immediate and profound. This is far bigger, far more serious than they anticipated. Eliza's composure flickers. Dr. Wells seems to shrink in his expensive suit. James avoids my gaze, his face pale. Clara looks from me to Eliza, a dawning unease in her eyes. Their confidence, so arrogantly displayed just moments before, begins to visibly fray. The hearing begins. It is not a debate. It is a systematic, meticulous presentation of evidence, orchestrated by the Ethics Committee's new chair, Professor Ramirez. with quiet input from Alistair and my grandmother's allies. First, the Kestrel Project. My time-stamped notes, server logs, emails, and the independent verification report from the international expert team. The evidence of Eliza's direct plagiarism, her alteration of data, her false claims of discovery, is laid bare, irrefutable and damning. Audio clips from my recordings of Eliza's panicked admissions, where she implicitly acknowledges the theft, are played. Then, the scope widens. Alistair, in his capacity as former university archivist and custodian of Evelyn Hayes's papers, presents the historical evidence, my grandmother's original notes, her patents, the documented pattern of theft by Eliza's grandparents, Arthur and Eleanor Vance. Video testimony from elderly scientists, colleagues of Evelyn who witnessed the original betrayal in the 1960s, is played. Their voices, frail but firm, speak of a brilliant mind silenced, a legacy stolen. A forensic accountant, hired by my grandmother's trust, presents a financial trail. Subtle, cleverly disguised payments and research grants flowing from Vance family foundations to Dr. Wells over the years, coinciding with periods where Eliza required favorable assessments or institutional support. His complicity is no longer just academic negligence, it's financial corruption. James's involvement is dissected. Server logs he claimed to have cleared are shown to have been ineptly altered, traces of his access, and Eliza's subsequent data appropriation still visible to expert analysis. His text messages with Eliza, his theft of my backup hard drive, now recovered by university security, acting on an anonymous tip from Alistair, are presented. He is portrayed not as a malicious mastermind, but as a weak, ambitious young man, easily manipulated by Eliza's charm and Dr. Wells's influence, a pawn in their larger game. He crumbles visibly as the extent of his foolishness is exposed. Finally, Clara. Her text messages with Eliza, detailing their backup plan, their discussions of arranging an accident, are displayed on the large screens. Her casual dismissal of my concerns, her active facilitation of Eliza's social and professional climbing, it's all there. She stares at the screen, her face ashen, as her lifelong jealousy and her reckless complicity are laid bare for all to see. She hadn't just enabled research theft. She had become entangled in something far more sinister, perhaps without even fully understanding the depths of Eliza's desperation. The complete timeline, from Evelyn Hayes's original discoveries in the 1960s to Eliza's latest attempts at damage control and intimidation, paints a devastating picture of premeditated multi-generational fraud, academic corruption, and a ruthless pursuit of unearned glory. The weight of the evidence is crushing. Eliza is the first to break. As the final damning piece of evidence regarding the planned accident is presented, a recorded phone call where she discusses it with a shady contact, a call intercepted by Alistair's network. A choked sob escapes her. Her carefully constructed facade shatters. She stares wildly around the room, her eyes landing on me, filled not with arrogance, but with raw, unadulterated terror. The generational fraud, the lies, the betrayals, it's all come crashing down. Dr. Wells, his face gray, attempts to speak, to justify, to deflect. This is a misunderstanding, a gross misinterpretation of events. But his voice lacks conviction. The financial records, the evidence of his long-term complicity with the Vance family's agenda, have stripped him of all credibility. He slumps in his chair, a broken man, his legacy in ruins. James simply puts his head in his hands, his shoulders shaking. The realization of how thoroughly he was used, how his ambition and attraction to Eliza had blinded him to basic ethics, is a devastating blow. He is an unwitting accomplice, yes, but an accomplice nonetheless. Clara stares at me, tears streaming down her face. When a recording of her conversation with Eliza about my paranoia and how I always think everything is hers is played, she flinches as if struck. She tries to speak, her voice choked with emotion. I didn't know. I never thought. Eliza, she twisted everything. My jealousy. She used it. Her explanation is a torrent of confused apologies, of belated understanding, of the painful recognition of her own deep-seated resentments and how easily they were manipulated. Their unified front has completely crumbled. Each of them is isolated in their own private hell of exposure and shame. The room is silent, save for Eliza's quiet, desperate sobs. The international observers exchange grim, knowing glances. The university officials look pale. Then, the desperate pleas begin. Eliza, looking directly at me, her face streaked with tears and mascara. "Please," she whispers, her voice hoarse. "Please, I'll do anything, give you full credit, financial compensation, a public apology. Just make this stop." Dr. Wells mutters about mitigating circumstances. James looks up, his eyes pleading for some kind of understanding, of forgiveness. Even Clara seems to expect me to somehow fix this for her. I stand, slowly, deliberately. The room falls into an even deeper silence. All eyes are on me. I feel a strange sense of calm, of detachment. The burning desire for revenge, the anger that fueled me for so long has cooled. It's been replaced by something else, a profound sense of clarity, of purpose. I look at Eliza, at Dr. Wells, at James, at Clara. I acknowledge their pain, their fear, their brokenness. "I understand that you are all distressed," I begin, my voice clear and steady, amplified by the microphone. "The truth can be a harsh light." I pause, letting my gaze sweep across the panel, the observers, the audience. The betrayals were significant. The theft, not just of research, but of trust, of potential, of a family's legacy, was profound. I see Eliza flinch, but I continue. "For a long time, I believed that making you pay, making you suffer as I suffered, was the only thing that mattered." Another pause. "But I see now that this is bigger than me. It's bigger than any one person's ambition or jealousy. It's about the integrity of science. It's about the responsibility that comes with knowledge. It's about ensuring that the pursuit of truth is not corrupted by greed or deceit." I turn back to Eliza, her tear-streaked face pleading. "You ask for forgiveness. You offer restitution. You want to rebuild what you have shattered." I take a deep breath. No. The word hangs in the air, simple, unequivocal. Not delivered with anger or triumph, but with a quiet, unshakable finality. "Some bridges cannot be rebuilt," I continue, my voice softening slightly, but losing none of its firmness. "Some actions have consequences that cannot be undone with apologies or financial settlements. The damage you have collectively wrought, not just to me or to my grandmother's memory, but to the scientific community, to the principle of honest inquiry, is too severe." I look towards Professor Ramirez and the panel. I thank this committee and all those who helped bring this truth to light. My grandmother, Dr. Evelyn Hayes, believed that science had the power to transform the world for the better. Her work, our work, was never intended to be a weapon for personal gain or a tool for suppression. I take one last look at the 4 people who had tried to destroy me. Your actions will be judged by this university, by the scientific community, and by the law. My role in that judgment is complete. Then, I announce, to honor my grandmother's true vision and to ensure that future generations of scientists are nurtured in an environment of integrity and collaboration, I am announcing the establishment of the Dr. Evelyn Hayes Institute for Ethical Scientific Advancement. It will be funded by the trust she established, and it will be dedicated to supporting brilliant minds who prioritize truth above all else. Its first act will be to see the Kestrel Project, the true Kestrel Project, through to its intended, world-altering conclusion. I don't wait for their reaction. I don't need to. I turn and walk away, Alistair and my grandmother's allies by my side, leaving behind the wreckage of their lives and stepping towards a future I and Evelyn had earned. The wind coming off the Pacific is cool and clean, carrying the scent of salt and renewal. It's been a year of rebuilding, not just a research project, but a life, a legacy. 1 year later, I'm standing on the balcony of the newly inaugurated Dr. Evelyn Hayes Institute for Ethical Scientific Advancement. It's a beautiful building, all clean lines and sustainable materials, perched on a cliff overlooking the ocean. My grandmother would have loved it. Inside, labs hum with quiet activity, filled with bright, dedicated researchers, all committed to ethical science. The Kestrel Project now guided by Evelyn's full, uncorrupted vision and my own reborn insights, is making incredible strides. The true potential of the research, the potential the Vances had tried to suppress and exploit, is finally being unlocked. Its impact, we now know, will be far greater, far more beneficial to humanity than I could have ever imagined in my previous life. Eliza. The name barely registers as a flicker of emotion now. Academic disgrace was swift and absolute. Stripped of her doctorate, her publications retracted, she faded into obscurity, a cautionary tale whispered in university hallways. Dr. Wells, his career over, retired in ignominy, his name forever linked to the scandal. The financial ties to the Vance family were his ultimate undoing. James, after cooperating fully with the authorities and the university, received a lesser sanction. He's working at a small regional college now, his ambitions curtailed, his brilliance forever tainted by his poor choices. We exchange occasional purely professional emails regarding minor data queries from the old project. There's a hesitant respect in his tone now, a humility that was absent before. Clara, that's been the hardest and most surprising path to navigate. After the hearing, after the full exposure of Eliza's manipulation and her own complicity, she was devastated. But somewhere in that devastation, a spark of her old self, the sister I vaguely remembered from childhood, began to emerge. The road to reconciliation has been slow, tentative, paved with difficult conversations and raw honesty. She's in therapy. She's started volunteering. And in a move that stunned everyone, especially me, she applied for an administrative position at the Hayes Institute in the newly formed Ethics Oversight Department. She says she wants to spend the rest of her career ensuring that what happened to me and to Evelyn never happens to anyone else. I'm cautious, but hopeful. Perhaps some bridges, though badly burned, can, with time and genuine remorse, bear weight again. I feel a sense of peace, a quiet satisfaction. Justice was served, not through a burning, all-consuming revenge, but through the steady, unyielding light of truth. I didn't become like them. I didn't let their darkness extinguish my own or Evelyn's. My grandmother's name, Dr. Evelyn Hayes, is finally receiving the recognition it deserves. Historical records have been amended. Scientific journals have published retrospective analyses of her groundbreaking work. Her contributions, and the contributions of other uncredited researchers whose work Alistair and his network have painstakingly uncovered, are being celebrated. It's a slow process, this rewriting of history, but it's happening. My name is now inextricably linked with hers in the scientific literature. Not as a victim, but as a successor, a continuer of her brilliant legacy. The research we are doing at the Hayes Institute is built on ethically sourced foundations, on collaboration and transparency. We've established new data integrity and authorship protocols, the Hayes Protocols, which are already being adopted by other research institutions around the world. There's a profound sense of healing in this, of righting old wrongs, of mending wounds that have festered for generations. It's more than just academic justice. It's a restoration of faith in the scientific endeavor itself. Evelyn's portrait hangs in the main hall of the Institute, her kind, intelligent eyes seeming to watch over everything, a guiding star. This journey, this second life, has been about so much more than revenge. It's been about restoration, of truth, of legacy, and ultimately, of myself. The burning need for vengeance that consumed me in the beginning has slowly dissipated, replaced by a quiet confidence, a deep-seated sense of purpose. I'm in a new relationship with Dr. Eris Thorne, the scientist from the competing lab who had independently verified my early work. He'd admired my research, and then me from afar, long before the scandals broke. He saw my brilliance not as something to be exploited, but as something to be cherished, to be partnered with. Our collaboration is not just professional, it's a meeting of minds and hearts, built on mutual respect and a shared passion for discovery. It's easy and joyful. I no longer feel the need for validation from the academic hierarchy, from the old guard who once dismissed me. My worth is not tied to their approval. I find comfort in my own brilliance, in the joy of the work itself, without the constant gnawing pressure to prove myself. The memories of my previous life, the pain, the betrayal, the accident, They still exist, but they feel distant now, like a story read in a book, tragic but resolved. I have fulfilled a purpose that extended far beyond that one lifetime, a purpose that Evelyn set in motion decades ago. I'm watching the sunset from the cliffside path near the Institute. The sky is awash with color, the ocean a vast expanse of shimmering possibility. Alistair appears beside me, as quietly and unexpectedly as he always does. He looks older, frailer, but his eyes are still bright, filled with a deep, peaceful satisfaction. "The cycle is broken," he says, his voice blending with the sound of the waves. "Evelyn can rest now, and so can you." I nod, a sense of profound gratitude washing over me. "Thank you, Alistair, for everything, for finding her, for finding me." He smiles. "It was my purpose. And now yours continues." He looks out at the horizon. "Your research, Evelyn's research, it will lead to the discovery she always dreamed of. The one that will truly help humanity. The one they tried so hard to stop. You are free now, liberated from the patterns of the past, free to create a new future." He places a hand on my arm, a fleeting paternal gesture. "Walk in light, my dear." And then, as quickly as he appeared, he is gone, fading into the twilight like a whisper on the wind. I stand there for a long time, watching the last sliver of sun dip below the horizon. The air is cool, the stars beginning to prick the darkening sky. I feel the gentle sea breeze carrying away the last whispers of an old life, an old pain, leaving only the promise of what was yet to come. A promise of discovery, a promise of healing, a promise of peace. And for the first time, in what feels like more than one lifetime, I am truly, completely at peace.